All right. Here we go, guys. Let's get things going today. All right. All right. We sound good? We got clock rhythm up in the house. What's good, bro? Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, listen, let's get things going real quick there. That way we can get this show on the road. I know things are about to kick off um for the NFL for week 7. So I'm back again this week for Willie Creamin's Fantasy Football Happy Hour. And again, guys, thanks for tuning in each week. I really appreciate the support. You guys are awesome. So um, let's kick things off first, right? We've got week 7, like I mentioned. Fantasy football. Listen, I'm all about the transparency and letting you guys know how I do each week. If I'm going to sit up here and give you guys advice on what to do in fantasy, I want to hold myself accountable too, and show you guys how I'm doing in my league. So right now, you could see I survived my guillotine league. That's not pictured up here because it doesn't really matter that much in terms of record and stuff. But survived my guillotine league through some fab at Justin Jefferson. So that would be nice having him. I won in 2 of my leagues. I lost in heartbreaking fashion in one of my leagues this week on Monday night, which was kind of tough. But we're still doing fairly well in 2 of my leagues. I'm sitting in first place in 2 of them, which is exactly where I want to be halfway through the season, right? It's easy to say that, right? You obviously want to be in first place, but I feel like I'm really kicking it this year in terms of what I'm doing. Like I mentioned each week, man, guys, I'm hitting those waiver wires hard. So, but let's talk real quick about the league I'm 3-3 in, cupping Mahomes balls. Now, it's really tough to be 3-3 in this league because this is the league that I won last year. So kind of difficult to do that. But I've got some guys coming back from injury. I had Cooper Kupp, Rashee Rice in this league. So real tough to kind of be in that situation right now. But we should have Kupp coming back. Probably he may play this week, but next week for sure. I feel like we're going to get him back without rushing him in. And listen, there's in these leagues that we're in, really, there's nothing worse than scoring the second highest points in the league and losing. That really sucks. So, I look at the trends, right? We got to be looking at positive trends as we go through. And that's a positive thing. Even though I didn't win last week, scoring that many points on any given week gives me an opportunity to win every single week. So that's what I'm trying to do. Again, in my guillotine league, like I mentioned, grabbing JJ. Listen, I already had a pretty solid roster as it was. Bench Brian Thomas today, even though I saw him go off with the touchdown and a few nice catches. But adding a guy like JJ, listen, I threw a ton of fab at him, and I'm excited to add that dude to the lane pipe squad, right? Like I'm looking to kill it in that league and win it. Last year I lost in heartbreaking fashion in the last couple weeks, and that didn't feel good. But got a new perspective this year on it, and really think I'm going to be able to kill it. So there's been some guys that I had my eye on the waiver wire in the past week, and few of those guys, Christian Watson, man, he's started to step things up, and I've never really been a fan of his in the past because of the hamstring injuries that kind of linger and stuff. But he seems to be hitting it off with Jordan Love. They seem to be doing things pretty well, and he's a guy that I snagged. I also snagged the Bengals D this week because they just got a solid matchup against Cleveland, who basically traded away like their biggest threat on offense in Cooper, right? I snagged Juju. I couldn't believe he was still available in one league, and then I also added Tyler Lockett. And I know some people laugh at Tyler Lockett and even the Juju snag, but these are guys that are going to be already getting consistent looks every single week. Especially Tyler Lockett. Listen, he's had at least 6 targets in 5 games this year. You just can't compete with that, especially when he's got guys like JSN and DK Metcalf on his team. You got Kenneth Walker there too, who's soaking up a bunch of opportunities every single week. If a guy like Tyler Lockett gets 6 targets, he's going to turn that into something. So, especially for a bench guy, that's really not bad. I don't really do this, but I'm going to give a little shout out to my fantasy dud of the week. Yeah, fuck you, Trey Tucker. Or should I say thank you for putting up 0 points for me last week? And that's kind of what cost me that win. All right. So last week I was pitching you on these guys, right? And I told you these guys were going to pop. We're going to go through the same thing, pick some different guys this week, but let's see how we did. Baker obviously finished as QB number 1 on the week, and I told you boys like he was going to be killing it. So really happy to see him breakthrough on that. Josh Jacobs, listen, he finished as running back 23, which I know is RB2. That's just not what we were hoping for on the week, not with the matchup, right? The matchup indicated he would have done much better going up against Indy. It just didn't happen. Bijan, listen, I put it down that you could ink him in for his first 100-yard game of the season, but he missed out on 100 yards by just a little bit, but still finished as RB4 on the week. So really, a solid start for the week. Tank Dell, listen, he just missed out on being a wide receiver 1, finished at wide receiver 16 on the week. Not stellar, but pretty close to what we predicted last week. Marvin Harrison Jr., listen, this one was tough, but he sustained the concussion. Like, it looks like he's going to be okay and ready to suit up for Monday Night Football. But again, like, this is kind of trivial stuff we're doing compared to, real life health for these guys. So really hope he's going to be good, because I think he's going to be an incredible playmaker in this league going forward. And then the last one, Brock Bowers, right? I mean, he finishes as tight end 5 on the week, which is kind of a down week for him. But still, he's putting up the points every single week. Like I mentioned last week, he's been the steal of drafts. He's just been so good in what he's able to do. And then let's take a look. We got some buys this week going on with Chicago and Dallas. Teams that we thought were really going to have some crazy good playmakers on them this year, and it really hasn't turned out that way. CeeDee Lamb's kind of been not great. DJ Moore hasn't been that great either. DeAndre Swift is coming on, I get that. But Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, they're kind of hit or miss every week. And Dallas, listen, the only one that I really am kind of pumped about on Dallas is Ferguson, just because he gets consistent targets every week. Lamb, again, like, just for as high as you paid in terms of a draft pick for him, just hasn't fulfilled on that yet. All right, let's get going. So we got our boy Kirk Cousins, or as some of my boys like to say, Kirk Cuckins, right? Just because he's knocked a few teams out of guillotine the last 3 weeks, so it's been kind of funny. But he's playing this week against a Seattle defense that they're said to be elite, right? They're secondary, but they definitely are not the way they're playing right now. Look at the last 3 weeks. They've given up 8 touchdowns and had 0 picks. That's just not good. And I mean, during this stretch, they also had a game where Jared Goff completed 18 out of 18 passes, and yeah, Amon-Ra went 1 for 1 against him too. The Seahawks, they're riding a 3-game losing streak, and the Falcons, they're riding a 3-game winning streak. And really riding that hard. Cousins been good. He's been good as of late, and a lot of fun, not only to watch, but just to have on your team in terms of fantasy. And I expect that to continue this week. Like, maybe don't book him in for 300 yards, but you could sign him up for a couple touchdowns, and he's going to turn it into a pretty solid fantasy day for you. So definitely like Cousins this week. Next guy, Kyron Williams. Listen, he's playing against Las Vegas this week. And granted, they just traded away their best offensive playmaker in Devontae Adams. But it's tough when a team starts to get gutted, right? Like, and that's exactly what's kind of happening with the Raiders, it seems. Christian Wilkins, listen, he's on IR for them. This team, they're swapping out quarterbacks. Now they got to travel to LA where they're going to get their asses kicked, and that kind of sucks. Cooper Kupp, like I mentioned earlier, he's got a chance of returning. If he plays, it's going to be because he's ready to go. But I'm kind of hoping that they leave him out a week just to make sure he's fully good to go. But the day's going to belong to Kyron Williams, and he's had a quiet season with the first 3 games, not being exactly what we wanted from him. But the previous 2 games, he's really found his stride and ran the ball very, very well. And I mean, I look for him to make it 3 in a row here. He should top 100 yards easily in this game. He scored a touchdown in every game he's played in this season, with 6 on the season. But I think even more impressive than that is his last 8 regular season games, he's had 12 touchdowns. And that's wild. I mean, I lock him in this week with confidence. Unfortunately, I don't got him in any of my leagues, but this dude's a real playmaker in the league and a true bell cow. He can do it all 3 downs. Definitely this dude. So next guy, a guy I'm not typically that high on. In fact, last year I was notorious for trading him away right before the week 1 game, and I got laughed at by some of my league mates and stuff. He goes out, scores a touchdown, they're roasting me real hard, and then all of a sudden he tears his Achilles, and it's like all of a sudden I look like a genius after that. So but J.K. Dobbins, he's been killing it this year, right? And he's playing at Arizona. He's running against an Arizona defense that they're top 5 in yards allowed on the ground, and he started started off the season like absolute gangbusters, and then they ran into two brick walls with the Steelers and the Chiefs defenses. You know, they're really tough, and not a lot of teams can run against them. San Francisco is going to find out this week. They will. But listen, he got back on track last week against the Broncos, which has been pretty stout against the run this year. So I expect him to tear it up this week against the Cardinals on primetime. I really think he will. Listen, I don't want to make any wild predictions here, right? Because Dobbins has already had games of like 131, 135 yards this season, but I could see him exceeding both of those this week against Arizona. I feel really good about starting him this week. All right, next, Mike Evans, the guy that just never seems to die, right? And this week, you guys are lucky. I'm bringing you three wide receivers for my starts of the week. So, listen, Mike Evans and Tampa Bay, they're playing against Baltimore at home. I rode Godwin hard last week, and I still think he's going to kill it. But this week, I'm riding high with Evans. And Baltimore, they're just very susceptible to giving up a lot of yardage in the passing game. And today's going to be no different. Yes, they will get pressure on Baker. I know that. Yes, they may get a few turnovers, but Tampa Bay is going to be throwing a lot this game. And Evans is going to be the big beneficiary of that. He could have a monster game. I don't think they have a corner that can really hang with him or properly cover him with his size. I just don't think they can. So I'm going to book him in for 7 catches, 140 yards, and yeah, 2 touchdowns. Like I told you, man, he's going to have a monster game this week. All right, moving on. My boy Amon-Ra St. Brown, which again, let me just preface this. Like, this is a guy that I've absolutely loved since he came into the league. I grabbed him off waiver wires a few years ago when he was a rookie and no one really wanted him. Then I picked him up the next year, or drafted him the next year, rather. I drafted him last year. He was awesome for me. I rode him to a championship. Like, I love the way this guy plays the game. I love the way he goes about his business. And I love that he always has a chip on his shoulder when he plays. It's awesome. So he's been fixing to get back into it after he had a little bit of an uncharacteristic week last week. He had 4 targets last week. And for those of you that aren't high on him or doubt him, like, you got to hear this, right? Like, the last time Amon-Ra had less than 6 targets in a game was week 15 of the 2022 season. And that was against the Bears, where he had 5 targets, but he's had a 24 game streak since then. It's insane. Like, in the 56 games that this guy's played in, and that's including the playoffs, right? He's had at least 6 targets in every game except 9. And 6 of those 9 games that he didn't came in his rookie season. Okay? So, like, if this is enough to make you say wow about a guy. Like, I really think he's going to bounce back this week. I expect double-digit targets this week against Minnesota. I think Detroit's going to need it in order for him to really, for them to be able to compete in this game. But I just expect he's going to try to prove that he's the best wide receiver on the field. And I know that that's tough with who he's got across from him, right? But, for Minnesota with JJ. But he steps on the field to prove that every single week. And, like, he's going to find a way to eclipse 100 yards. I'm putting him down for 8 catches, 115 yards, and a touchdown this week because I just think he's going to kill it. Next, we got JJ, right? The guy he's playing against, right? It's fairly rare that you get 2 alphas as good as these 2 are on the field in the same game. JJ's not going to go away quietly when Amon-Ra pops off in this game. So he's going to have to do something to show that he's that dude as well. I look for him to do what he does every week. Something spectacular. He's going to wow in this game. I know it's going to happen. And he knows exactly how much this game means. How many times has Minnesota been undefeated and Detroit looking to knock them down a peg? It just really hasn't happened that much. And I really think, like, this is going to be the week. It's also, I believe Hawkinson's been ruled out, but Addison's going to be a go. So they really can't afford to double JJ on every single down. Addison he'll kill him if they decide to do that. But listen, Justin Jefferson, he's had at least 6 targets in every single game this season, including a whopping 14 last game. So him and Darnold definitely have caught their groove together. They know how to be able to get it done, and I expect him to be dialed up early and often in this matchup. I don't want to make any other crazy predictions in terms of stats and stuff like that, but because he could have 8 catches for 90 yards or he could have 5 catches for 175. It really just depends on the game flow. But I will say that if the game is close, I expect him to step up at the end of the game and give the Vikings a big, big play that they'll need at the end. So definitely riding high on Jefferson this week. All right. Tight end starts of the week. Now, listen, I got two guys coming for you. Obviously, Travis Kelce, George Kittle. Not only is this an epic Super Bowl matchup, but you also get two of the best tight ends of this generation facing off against each other, which is just, I mean, that's kind of what we love about football, seeing the best go up against the best. Both defenses, listen, they're top five in yards that they allow to the tight end position. Let me say that again. Kansas City and San Francisco are top five in yards that they allow to the tight end position, which you don't really expect that coming from two really solid defenses and well-respected defenses like Kansas City and San Francisco. But the biggest difference for me is that the 49ers have allowed 5 touchdowns to the tight end position this year, whereas the Chiefs haven't allowed any. So let's go ahead and start with Travis Kelce, right? Listen, I look for him to get his first, maybe his second touchdown this week. But yeah, that's kind of rare that we're in week 7 now and Travis Kelce hasn't gotten a touchdown yet. That's kind of crazy. So the 49ers defense, listen, they've been suspect at covering the position. And don't forget that Mahomes' most trusted target is Kelce. You know, he really is. So we've got, I definitely like him this week. It's going to be a battle, but I really like Kelce and Kittle both to finish atop the tight end rankings this week. When it comes to Kittle, listen, he's coming off his best game of the season where he inked 2 touchdowns. He's just been very good so far. He's got 5 touchdowns on the season himself. I expect for him to be a difference maker in this game. And listen, as Kansas City's going to look to limit what Debo and Ayuk are able to do. Ayuk really has kind of been a non-factor this year in most of the games, which is kind of ironic considering how much he was complaining about getting paid and getting that contract and all of that. It really hasn't been him putting up the the numbers to see that. But Kittle, he has, right? And Debo's been okay this year. Had better games than Ayuk at least. But listen, Purdy's got good rapport with Kittle, and it's going to show in this game. He's one of the guys that he really trusts when things start to break down. This is the guy he goes to. So, guys, those are my picks for the week that we've got. Again, thank you all for your support. I really appreciate it. Good luck this week in fantasy. I'm going to be back next week. We'll have week 8. And any questions you guys got for your squads, make sure you drop them. Drop me a line on X or YouTube or anything like that. Let me know because I want to make sure I'm helping your teams out as well. So other than that, you guys have a great rest of the day and good luck this week in fantasy. Peace.